Hi there and welcome back or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Amy and I have an unhealthy obsession with Formula One, which we're not going to be talking about today. So, welcome back to my little why you should watch series that I've been doing. Today we're going to be talking about Formula E. Now, I'm going to be extremely real with you here and say, personally it's not my favourite. I am not the world's biggest fan of Formula E, but it has its place, so I will tell you about it. This was suggested by one of you guys, and I will take any opportunity I can to learn about any motorsport I can. So we are talking about it today anyway. It does have its redeeming qualities, so let's get into it. First off, what is Formula E? Formula E is an electric single-seater racing series that was started in 2014 with the vision of bringing motorsport into the present and future of technology. By being fully electric and sustainable, it only races on street tracks across the globe. In 2023, we were in the third generation of regulations and cars that allow the battery to be charged by all four wheels, I believe. I don't really know how it works, but science. This year, there are 11 teams with 22 drivers who compete at 16 different tracks, again, around the globe. Surprisingly, there are quite a few manufacturers, especially when compared to supercars or Formula One, for example, with about half the teams on the grid making their own powertrains, which is pretty cool. Let's get into your average race weekend format because it can be quite confusing the first time you watch it, particularly the qualifying session. Each weekend has one or two races depending on the location, I guess, and two practice sessions, one on Friday, one on Saturday. Nice, easy, simple to remember. Now for qualifying, which is sort of like which is sort of a knockout style, I guess, with the drivers being divided into two groups of 11, and they each get 10 minutes to go out there and set the fastest lap, with the top four from each group progressing through to the next round of qualifying. We then get to the head-to-head battles, or duels, as they're referred to in Formula E. So it's just two drivers competing against each other for the fastest lap, and that's sort of organised into brackets based upon their times from the first part of qualifying. And then the winners from each of these duels then compete against each other until we get down to four drivers, two drivers, and then the semis and finals of head-to-heads. The winner of the final duel taking pole for the race and his competitor starting alongside him on the front row. The semi-finalists then take up third and fourth, again depending. The quarter-finalists take up the next two rows, depending on how fast they qualified. And then the rest of the grid lines up sort of as normal based upon how fast they qualified in that first round of qualifying. A little bit confusing, but it's actually quite fun once you know what's going on, and it's really unique compared to a lot of other motorsports. So, qualifying, I like it. A bit confusing, but I like it. Now on to the race. The race is a predetermined amount of laps based upon sort of how long the battery can last, because again, electric cars. However, they do have the ability to add on extra laps depending on yellow flags, safety cars, stuff like that. There's also something called attack mode, where the driver can basically drive offline at certain parts of the racetrack, and on the TV screens you'll see like little arrows that indicate where this is, sort of like in Mario Kart, and they'll gain an extra 50 watts of power for a certain amount of time, basically meaning they are sacrificing the best line on the track to go faster. It is compulsory to do this a few times throughout the race, so it does sort of add another element to strategy, which I like. However, again, it reminds me of Mario Kart and does seem a little bit gimmicky, but that's just me. I know in previous years they also had where the audience basically vote for a driver and they would get extra power at a certain point during the race, which I thought was no. Glad they got rid of that. Okay, so all of that was slightly confusing, so we're just gonna swiftly move along before my brain explodes. As this is a relatively new championship, there isn't much to go over in terms of, historical development. Again, only been around for 9 years or something. So most of the big names that were there at the start are still there today. One ex-driver of note is obviously Nick De Vries, who had his chance in Formula One this year, but was dropped a week and a half ago for Daniel Ricciardo. So perhaps he will be returning to Formula E. We shall see. In terms of this year, like I said earlier, we're on to the Gen 3 cars with 11 teams and 22 drivers. There are quite a few big names on the grid, especially if you watched Formula 1 like 7-ish years ago. We have Van Dorn, Verline, Verne. I'm sure there are other people I'm forgetting, but they're there. Currently, it is the Brit of Jack Dennis who leads the championship on 195 points, but second place isn't far behind. Nick Cassidy from New Zealand is on 175 points, and we're going into the final round, so either of them could really win the championship, which we can't really say about Formula 1 at the moment, so that's nice. So yes, either of them could win this weekend, especially considering there are 2 races and the point system is similar to that of Formula 1 and a lot of motorsport racing series is. So first place gets 25 points down to 10th, who gets 1, as well as a point for fastest lap. In Formula E, however, you also get points for pole position, so 3 points for each pole position. Again, 2 races, 2 qualifying sessions. So technically, Mitch Evans down in 3rd could technically still win the championship if the other 2 have an absolute shocker this weekend. So that is pretty exciting. So who should you support in this final race, or perhaps you're going to tune in next season? As usual, I do recommend you watch a few races, do your own research, see who you vibe with, and then pick from there. But this is sort of an overview on sort of who I choose to support whenever I bother to tune in. In terms of teams, there are a few big ones. So we have Envision, Porsche, Andretti, and Jaguar. Usually the ones who are fighting for the podium positions wins the whole championship. You also have Neon McLaren, who used to be Mercedes, who again won several championships. So if you just want to reuse some of your McLaren merch from other motorsport series, there you go, you can do that. For drivers, I've always liked Verline, so I do look out for him. As well as the young McLaren driver Jack Hughes, he tends to do pretty well. And Dan Ticktum. I know that's controversial, but I just know his name from F2, so I was like, gravitate towards that. So yeah, that is Formula E. Very interesting, slightly confusing. High-key reminds me of Mario Kart, but hopefully I've convinced you to at least give it a go, because it does get a bit of a bad rap. And you may as well turn into the finale, because the final race of the season generally tends to be pretty good if it's a close championship, like no matter what. It takes place in London this weekend. It's actually quite interesting because it's sort of a racetrack in a convention centre. Interesting concept. Couldn't do that with actual like diesel cars, fumes and stuff, but it is partially inside. Anyway, it is the 29th and 30th of June, so if you're watching it after that, sorry, the championship is over, tune in next season. I probably won't actually be watching because time zones, A, B, Formula 1 this weekend, and C, I am attending an actual racing event in person, so yeah. Anyway, that brings this video to a wrap. Leave any comments down below of any other racing series you want me to talk about. Always love doing these deep dive style videos. And leave a like if you like the video, press the red button to subscribe for more F1 and motorsport related content. And I will see you all in the next one. Laters.